Hello. Something that's said a lot on social media about the current inheritance tax problems or changes, however you want to call them, is why don't they just sell their farm and retire? They'd be worth millions, have an easy life and all these things. And in some cases that would be right. You would probably have an easy life and you probably would have some spare cash. So why don't all farmers do it? It is a bit confusing, isn't it? I know a lot of people probably don't understand what it's about, but numerous reasons. Pride. There's a lot of pride in a farm, passion in a farm, based around family and the fact that it's been given to you. I think farmers all have a sense of duty to the countryside, a custodianship, for want for a better word. Every farmer, for some reason, inherently wants to be part of this cycle, their turn of keeping the ground and passing it on in a better state than they got it. That's something that I think is ingrained in all farmers. But most of all, the thing that I don't think anybody who doesn't farm will understand is the farm isn't something you can sell. That's not how it feels. Of course you can sell it, technically. But it's part of your body. It's part of you, it's part of who you are. It's part of everything you've ever done. It's quite often where your children were born and the whole upbringing is. But it's also most likely where their grandparents were born and their grandparents' parents were born. And it's quite likely something that's given lifeblood to the family for generations. And unless there's dire straits that make it impossible to continue, which some farmers are facing, and that's completely acceptable, the money is there in the asset to hopefully cash in your chips and lead a comfortable life. But what does that tell you about farmers? They're willing to take the chances when they could cash it all in to still continue to create food, to push on, to deal with the stress, for sucking it up for the family history, for family future. It's just a way of life, and if you don't do it, you'll never understand. But what we'll do on socials is do our best to help you understand. I think that's all we can really do. It's just like, you don't want to be the person that has to sell it when it's been handed down from generation to generation. And I think it comes down to, it's just not something you can sell. It's part of your body, it's part of you, and you are part of it. And that's what makes it so difficult. But all these words still don't make any sense to a lot of people who just don't really understand. It's a good job farmers are the way they are, really, because from day one of getting given the farm, etc., if your attitude was to just sell up straight away, there'd be no farms left. There'd be no food produced. The country would be at a standstill, at the mercy of imports. We don't want that. The farmers know that. We know that. We know how these things work. Because farmers are accountants, economists, vets, plumbers, gamblers, labourers, you name it. We know these things, and we know our industry, and we know our business. And it's really important to us that it continues in the hands of people who know these things and have done it for generations. Another reason would be something like, how do I put it? Your job, your life, your home, and everything is intertwined in one thing. Quite often people will move house to get a new job and they uproot their lives, and that can be really stressful. And that does happen and does exist, you know. I appreciate a lot of people do those things. But in a farm, it's very rare to pick up everything have a new job lined up and move away to another farm. Usually it's what you've always done, and it's a job you've always done, and you rarely are in the position to move to a different job. It's very unlikely to you to go, right, I'm going to get a job at this place, this different place, sell my farm and go and change careers and change jobs. It doesn't really work that way, because you've got so much going on here. You can't just stop it either. Things on a farm aren't black and white. They aren't things that you can just stop. You're committed to loans, you're committed to schemes. Even if you sold the land, there will be things in place where prohibit you to do that cut off straight away. So, and that's even if you find a buyer in the current market. So the whole thing about having a different type of job does tie into it as well. It makes it quite difficult to stop farming. Hello, you. Let's not forget, there's also the fact that, you know, should you really be told what to do in this day and age, with all the acceptance and compassion that's shown in the world, people's choices and what people want to do is highlighted so much in the media and in the news, that we should be free to do what we want. Yet sometimes you're going to find farmers out there who we've been left on our own for so many years, clearing up the government's mess with food and prices. We're the ones that are fitting the bill for those cheap prices, which I know aren't cheap to the consumer, but what the farmer gets is completely not what people would expect. Every time you buy a loaf of bread, 5 pence of the loaf of bread goes to the farm. You're paying the high price at the end, and the middle's just swallowed up by corporations making tons of cash. So that breeds a very specific kind of farmer, someone who is resilient and actually is quite independent and doesn't necessarily want to be told what to do. And that's why it plays into these things, that you might have some farmers that are just bloody minded saying, this is not happening, you can't take it away from me, because that's the way they're built, the way they're ingrained and what goes on in their brain.